My name is Sthaneshwar Timalsina. I'm currently at San Diego State University. I'm originally from Nepal, from a remote village in Dhading. I went to Kathmandu after my study in the family background in Nepal and joined Sanskrit University there. And I did my undergraduates. And I studied with professors like Vidyanath Upadhyaya and Ramanand Brahmachari, both on logic and Vedanta philosophy. And I went to Benares, joined Sampurnananda Sanskrit University for a specific study on Yoga Tantra. And this is a discipline that explores the agamic traditions. And I studied with particularly Pandit Brajvallabh Dwivedi, and many sages and eminent scholars such as Shankara Chaitanya Bharati and other scholars I engaged, and I learned both the practices as well as the textual traditions. And in order to give an institutional background for these classical traditional teachings preserved within families only, I went back to Nepal and started a department for Tantric studies, and my students are currently teaching there. I then moved to Germany to get my PhD, and I did my PhD on Drishti Srishti, a philosophy of consciousness and its creativity. And then moved to America, taught in different institutes, and currently I'm teaching at San Diego State. One thing I realized in this journey, particularly when I reflect back, is there is this lived aspect of the tradition is missing, and what I felt is the urge to not just teach and disseminate philosophies, but also conserve practices that are endangered in this wild modernization and westernization, where people have lost hundreds of generations of teachings. And so I have just started Vimarsha Foundation with a hope to give life to these shastric textual traditions that were lived, practiced by people for generations. My dream from Vimarsha is to develop a reflexive awareness, as the translation of the term itself refers to, on cultural philosophical aspects. For that, I have identified these two terms, Shastra and Abhyasa, which means text and practices, how to live the teachings that are preserved in these classical texts. And for that, my ambition is to develop more courses, offer free courses for as many people as we can, create a global home based mostly on the web, and disseminate knowledge and actually initiate a Dharma and science dialogue in which we can invite and engage scholars, scientists, philosophers, and bring the practitioners, people who have been meditating for a long time, people who have experience on the subjects that we are teaching. So this is a way to conserve the wisdom traditions that are endangered in these times due to cultural change, modernization, and fast-paced westernization. In the last summer, we started a Yoga Vasishtha discourse, and it was very fruitful and very engaging. Many people participated in it, and since then I have composed and shared some prayers to Bhairava, and that reflects half the deities discussed in the classical text are mostly unknown, their temples are lost, and their traditions are endangered. And currently I have developed a course on Tripurarahasya, and we want to move next to offer this course on Tripurarahasya. Tripurarahasya is an eminent text for understanding Vedanta, Tantra, Yoga. So the most important thing I find why I'm offering this text is the term Tripura is something beyond the triad, or something that exists in the threefold structure, referring to a goddess, Tripura Sundari, and Rahasya, the esoteric teachings or the mysteries, sums up actually the Vedanta teachings and tantric philosophies like Trika and Pratyavijna. And why I find this text most essential is, number one, for the ease in which this text describes some of the most esoteric practices, and number two, its syncretic approach, because most people like to isolate things and they believe that they have to find some kind of pure practice that is not connected to anything else, and what they do not reflect is the tradition, the history that generated these practices, that conserved these practices, in which in the very makings of these practices multiple strands of thoughts have involved, and later in these dogmatic readings, isolationist readings fail to address this broader cultural connection. And I find this Tripurarahasya text very sweet and accurate, at the same time trying to preserve this syncretic approach, syncretic effort of keeping multiple traditions woven together. And in this I find the life of Trika, I find the life of Vedanta, and of course because it's a later medieval text, so it addresses the lacuna that were left behind by the earlier philosophers. But most importantly, this has a combination of philosophy and practice, because most often when we discuss philosophy we fail to address practice, and when we have these practice manuals and dogmatic rituals and then we fail to relate it to philosophy. This book, divided in 3 sections, Mahatmya, Jnana and Charya, of which the Charya section is not available now, but we have to fill that from other Charya texts. There is a meticulous effort to keep this practice in light of philosophy and conserve philosophy in light of practice, and that is why Tripurarahasya is quintessential to understanding the type of Vedanta that can be lived, the type of Trika Siddhanta that can be practiced and brought to experience, because after all, what we learn has to be experimented and what we learn has to be felt, and I believe this text offers that. And even eminent sages of our times like Ramana Maharshi have highly praised Tripurarahasya for the seekers, and so that is mainly why I chose this text. Vimarsha Foundation is offering Tripurarahasya as a free course. You can just click the link provided below and register just with your name and email, and it's welcoming everybody. There is no question of gender, caste, ethnicity, religion, nationality, so everybody is welcome, and our dream is to create a global home of Shastra and practice. So you are most welcome to join and learn with us.